Resident Evil 6 is sort of the bastard child for the series. While it's more action-heavy than any Resident Evil game before it, it did still dabble in classic Resident Evil themes like puzzle solving and even a bit of horror spliced in. It's definitely one of the most ambitious Resident Evil games that Capcom ever put together, with a whopping 4 campaigns to play through. Now it's launching on Nintendo Switch, and I must say, it looks pretty great on the platform. What you're seeing now is the demo gameplay that I got from the eShop, so you can go check it out as well. I believe it's on the US eShop now, but I downloaded it from the Australian eShop because it was available faster over there. Anyway, in case you want to completely discredit my opinion, I enjoyed Resident Evil 6 for what it was back whenever it launched. I was open to the idea of having more action in the game, and based on the trailers that they released beforehand, it looked like they were going to be dabbling in the horror genre as well. Sadly, the game never actually fully goes back to its horror roots, but like I said, there are some slower segments that are more puzzle heavy with more creepy atmospheres. But even in those settings, the game still has a lot of action involved. But anyway, if you're here, you want to know how the game runs on Switch, and from my experience, the game looks like it's more on par with the Xbox One and PS4 ports of the last gen title. The game looks shockingly good in portable mode, and despite its mostly mediocre reception, I don't think anyone ever argued that the game was ugly. Launching late last gen, Capcom was able to utilize everything they learned about the consoles with Resident Evil 6. Even by today's standards, Resident Evil 6 still looks pretty damn good. Will it knock your socks off? Definitely not. But as a portable title, maybe so. Even in the prelude, opening segment of the game, there's so much going on screen, whether it's explosions, people running through the streets, zombies attacking. It never ceases to amaze me getting games like this on a portable platform. For me, the two biggest letdowns for Resident Evil 6 are the upgrade system and the lack of exploration. While Resident Evil 4 and 5 offered a bunch of different types of items you could find that you could then sell and upgrade your guns, Resident Evil 6's perk system is really boring and takes forever to actually upgrade your character. The whole section just feels bland, and I honestly think the game could have done without it entirely. And because it's 4 separate campaigns, if you decide to play through all of them over and over, you're going to be fighting a lot of the same bosses as the stories overlap with one another. In other words, you never really feel any reason to go back and replay the game, which is the exact opposite of Resident Evil 4 and 5. Leon and his partner Helena's story sticks closer to the classic Resident Evil feel, dropping you in creepy, dark, compact areas, forcing you to feel uneasy about your every move. Sadly, the game tosses too many Quicktime events into the mix. Resident Evil 4 and 5 did it, but they were spaced apart a lot better than in RE6. It gets annoying and quickly pulls you out of the horror experience. With Chris Redfield's campaign, he appears alongside a newcomer called Pierce Nivens. Tossing all the horror out the window, it's a shoot first, ask questions later type of campaign that often feels nothing like traditional Resident Evil, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is definitely one of the biggest gripes longtime fans had with the game. I'm all for introducing new elements into a franchise, but this campaign does seem like it deviates way too far outside of the Resident Evil world that we've come to know. But I'll be honest, some of the set pieces did have me on the edge of my seat, and the ending caught me off guard with an emotional, unsuspecting outcome. Wesker's son Jake and classic Resident Evil 2 character Sherry Birkin also have a campaign in the game. Talk about a random mix-up. Luckily, the game has you running from a nemesis-like creature. It's a terrifying experience and some of the most suspenseful segments in the game. I liked the dynamic between Jake and Sherry, but it ultimately goes nowhere and simply doesn't pay off very well. I'd like to see them return in a future installment, but that's very unlikely. Then there's Ada's campaign, which is my personal favorite. Things are slowed down, you're fighting in compact areas, and this story features a lot of puzzle solving. Not only that, but her story sorta ties together all of the other campaigns. Even though this is an old game, I don't want to talk much about her story because I feel like a lot of people might be playing this for the first time on Switch, and you should go in knowing as little as possible. Resident Evil 6 simply threw everything at the wall just to see what would stick, and I think most gamers that played all 4 campaigns thought that Ada's and Leon's stories were the best because they were the closest to traditional Resident Evil. But be sure to let me know what you think. Have you played the Resident Evil 6 demo yet on Nintendo Switch? How do you think it runs? I think it looks pretty great despite some frame rate issues, but overall I don't really have much complaints. Thanks a lot for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and maybe even that notifications bell if you're feeling generous. I'll talk to you guys later.